Okay, well, welcome everyone to the latest Zoom event from Leeds Theosophical Society. We've been doing these now for just over 3 years, obviously in response to COVID, but it's really taken on a life of its own and it's become quite international. And what we're doing this afternoon is in the way of an experiment, really, rather than just having a normal talk or a lecture. I'm going to have a conversation with someone many of you know and who you'll find extremely fascinating and very much what you would call an esoteric innovator. And of course, we're talking about the wonderful Ann Kelly, all the way from the United States of America and California, where she spent her early life. She's been living in the UK with her husband, Christopher, for the last 15 years or so, and lives in a lovely little place on the south coast. What she's been doing in recent years and what I've been trying to do, and perhaps it's because of our common background working in the dark arts of journalism and the media, we've been trying to take these key ideas of the ageless wisdom and A, make them more accessible and practical, and B, make them more understandable so that they can be fitted more readily into people's everyday lives. We have reached a point now where the world needs the kind of ideas that theosophy and other traditions put forward. So the purpose of the conversation this afternoon is to explore ways in which we can more effectively put out these messages. So what I propose is to talk to Ann for a while, and then I'd very much like to open it up to a wider discussion. And I'd very much welcome your own suggestions, thoughts, comments, ideas, whatever they may be. But straight away now, let's welcome Ann. Ann, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. What I'd very much appreciate is a brief overview, perhaps based on your own work over the last few years, of what is going wrong and what is the way to fix this. By going wrong, I mean the fact that these ideas are not reaching many people, particularly the young. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for doing this. Once again, this is the first time I've ever seen a meeting like this open to all. And in my understanding, that's what our objectives are in the Theosophical Society or Theosophy, the objectives of Theosophy. I'm looking at them right here: to diffuse among men a knowledge of the laws inherent in the universe. Now, diffuse does not mean to sit there and talk to yourself in a room with only 2 or 3 of your friends who you think are worthy. To diffuse, to me, to promulgate, means to take them out to the world. Now, it is a tough sell. I'm going to be honest with you. My background is I did radio and television in California, and I thought I would like to get these out into the world. These shouldn't be this dusty little book. And it was a book by William Walker Atkinson, which was the advanced course in yogi philosophy and Oriental occultism, which pointed towards light on the path. They called that a theosophical classic, which pointed to voice of the silence. I was absolutely, completely over the moon. I had found finally what I was looking for. So I just started to voice them and put them up online, and people came in. They were curious, they were interested, and the channel began to grow. I then called that channel Living Theosophy, and I just wanted to lend my voice to be of service, to get the teachings out into the world. With the only thing I have, the skill that I have, is I am a presenter. I'm a broadcaster. So I'd like to give these ancient sacred teachings a modern voice. So then I thought perhaps I could voice these. So I voiced the voice of the silence. It took 9 months to get those Sanskrit even anywhere near accurate. It was a big thing to do. And I don't even think I did it very well, but I did it to the best of my ability. Again, put it online, free, so everyone can have access to it. Unfortunately, coming up against quite a bit, the Theosophical Society and many who are sitting fat and happy in this organization don't want this to happen. I started taking it then to TikTok. I made tiny little short videos. They didn't like it. They actually moved very much against it. But where are people today? And we've talked about this before. They are on their phones and they are scrolling, and their attention span is short. There's no more need for dusty lodges and libraries. Let us speak to the people in the language that they are speaking. And that language today is digital, social media. And I guarantee you that the founders of any society, any of them, would have used the language of the modern world. So I have found that it is an incredibly uphill battle. It is very, very difficult. And I'll see on TikTok, you get millions of views for somebody catching a Coke can with one hand. It's weird. But the stuff that I put out there, it doesn't get the views. It doesn't get the momentum, but there are some. It does get some. There's 24,000 over there right now. And they are hungry for this. They're like, what is this? What is Theosophy? And I will tell you, there's a video short that I did a couple years ago called What is Theosophy? It's maybe a minute long. And that is spiking today, which is really encouraging because they want to know what it is. And I'm not looking to recruit for the Theosophical Society. I want people who are hungry for this to know that it's out there. So I don't know if that answered your question at all, but that's just a little brief introduction.
So as well as the online landscape and digital and social media and all the rest of it, are there any other ways that this stuff can be promoted, disseminated? Obviously not being evangelistic, because we're not evangelistic people. We offer ideas and people either accept them or they don't. Are there any other ways? I mean, physical ways that people can get together to do things more? I don't mean in terms of traditional lodge meetings necessarily, right, but in other ways. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, the most important thing, and I think we might have lost this along the way, the most important thing about these sacred teachings, it's not about really studying them or gathering in groups to study them. It is hands down personal application and using them in your daily life. As daunting and as amazing as they are, this is what I do a lot of stuff with Eddie's brilliant work, which is Unfolding Consciousness, a modern day publishing of these ancient texts, the perennial philosophy, Theosophy. These are instructions for life. Now, I will tell you, many people want change in the world, but very few people want to take personal responsibility and make the change. I have found that just being able to be around the teachings, yes, we have the study, yes, we have the publications, yes, we have the social media and all that. The most important thing is for us to live them. And I don't understand why a majority of the theosophists that I know, they want to talk about it, they want to pontificate about it, but very few people want to become it. And I think that is the most important thing. It has been since I discovered these teachings. It has been on my own journey. It isn't about the numbers on the videos. It's about the changes that I make inside my life and how I can become just a better version of who I am. I don't know anything. I just want to try to be better than I was, because if we all took responsibility, if we all took just the law of karma and reincarnation and understood what a peacekeeper that would be for the world of today. That's why I do what I do. Somebody else might find this and somebody else might want to apply it. So you can become living Theosophy wherever you're at. You take these teachings and become them. That's the most important thing. It's not about meeting online. It's not about numbers. It's not about books. It's not about text. It's about becoming the teachings. That's our most important responsibility.
I'm not sure whether you've heard this story or not, but there was a theosophist who one day wound up in the afterlife, and they wander around for a while, familiarizing themselves with the astral world. And eventually they come to two signs. And the first sign says, lecture on reincarnation. And the second sign says, reincarnation here. Where does the theosophist go? That's the question. But obviously, a lot of this is about what people can absorb and into their own lives and live in a practical way. But here we experience a difficulty, don't we? Because it's quite clear today, a lot of people don't really want to put in the effort. I mean, they're certainly not going to read a book of 800 pages or study texts in that way. And people are essentially quite lazy. They want to go off on a weekend seminar and then come back initiated with a certificate or a medal or something like that. And they say, now I'm a so-and-so master and I know it all. And they don't realize that this is an incremental thing. You know, every day, another layer gets added to it. But it's about personal effort. And as you say so rightly, it's about responsibility, personal responsibility. And you're right. If the laws of karma were more readily understood, it would have a peacekeeping effect that no great number of United Nations could achieve.
Right. That's why I think it's so important, the value of these teachings. I can't not work with them. I can't not serve them. I don't even know if it's making any difference. If I pass away today, did any of the stuff that I do, did it reach someone who wouldn't have known about it? And when you Google theosophy, God help us, you get black and white pictures of the end of the 19th century, and it looks like a cult. I can't tell you how many times I've been crossed. People come over. Blavatsky is a Satanist. It's Lucifer. It's a cult. It's this. It's that. It's Nazi. For God's sakes, look, those texts came through at the end of the 19th century. Yes, Blavatsky, by her own admission, was a scribe. All right, she wrote this down. Lots of it has been written down throughout the millennia since the beginning of time. These teachings, we're told to contrast and compare, and then we're told to share. We've become, well, I don't want to say we, the Theosophical Society has become like the church, where you have the big fat salaried priests, where we look up to them as though they dole out the teachings. Come on, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to come out, take them out to the world, humbly serving humanity, to work, not so we can get PhDs, but we can serve humanity. Other people get this. This helps ease the unnecessary suffering of all beings on our planet. That is the true service. That's what we're supposed to do. And it doesn't mean you have to have a YouTube channel. You don't have to have a TikTok channel. You don't have to write a book. You just have to become it. You need to be it. And for us to get it out there, I know that people say, oh, it's only for the few. But the few means the few that are going to get it and understand. It doesn't mean the few that your fat salaried priests with lots of real estate think that they're worthy. We've made a terrible mistake. Humans love to worship people. We need to understand the teachings remain. They belong to everybody. These platforms are meant for the teachings, not the teacher. We are here to serve, and we're to take them out into the world with whatever your skill is. Mine's speaking. That's what I did for years. Whatever your skill is, take them out into the world, serve them in your own space. You don't have to have a lodge. You don't have to have a channel. Just become them. Take them out into the world and let other people understand nature is the church. This pagan thing that Dee is doing by tying them together, brilliant. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. Let us lead by example like she is. Fantastic.
Well, perhaps we need a new name for this, and we should call it Freeosophy.
Freeosophy, yes.
Where it becomes liberated from an organization. I mean, I don't want to decry the work of the Theosophical Society, but one of the criticisms I would make of it is that it does tend to look at things through a rearview mirror. It has plenty of conferences looking at what happened back in the glory days when HPB was still around, when Blavatsky was around, and, looking at all those early classics, which are marvelous books. But they somehow become rather fixated with that. And I've never come across any event during the many years I've been a member of the Society where people have looked at the future of the Theosophical Society. Now, exactly 2 years from now, we reach a milestone. It's 150 years, or it will be 150 years in the autumn of 2025 since the Society was formed in New York. And that is a kind of a milestone, but I don't see people using it as an opportunity to kind of take things forward. So this begs the question with me, as someone who's very, very interested in the cyclic unfoldment and evolution of life. Has the Society gone through a particular life cycle? What is that life cycle? What is the future, A, of the Society, and B, of Theosophy itself? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up. And as I go through Instagram and I look at where everybody is, it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. This is where they're at. I did see a very big, I can't remember if it was the Theosophical Society out of Adyar, but you want to go ahead. You've got new people coming in. There are young people coming in. I don't understand why we're not speaking the language of the young. I saw one of these big organizations talk about Annie Besant's birthday. I don't know of any 30-something and under that is going to care about Annie Besant's birthday. She's not even alive anymore. Why are we doing this? I just don't get it. I think what's important is that we look at what we've got. These ancient teachings, they belong to everybody and solely to no one. No one has ownership of theosophy. Somebody, I don't know where we got lost along the way. How did it all of a sudden belong to someone? That's the human nature. It's like the church. Look at what we've done wrong with the churches. Why can't we do something right? We've got to try to move forward. And I do think it has to do the way we communicate. It's the internet. It's somewhere there. It's the internet. It's also our desire to serve others, to be of service to each other and to these teachings. And I apologize if I went off and I didn't answer your question directly. You're talking about the movement forward. We're looking at, it's always looking back. Google Theosophy. What's the first thing that comes up? A big black and white picture of Blavatsky in 1880. Why are we doing that? Theosophy is older than Blavatsky. Blavatsky is not Theosophy. I've had to explain that several times. She was a scribe, many times actually on my channel, but it doesn't matter. I'm not here to bat that off. It would be great if we could all work together like that, where we could actually work hand in hand with each other. And that's what you're doing. You're doing so much by bringing this, all of us together, Tim. This is a really, really big thing. And you've opened this meeting, not just to large members, but to everyone, because Theosophy belongs to everyone. So by what you're doing, hopefully somebody will see this and be inspired, not to post about Annie Besant's birthday, but about life in 2023 and how difficult it is. These teachings apply today in whatever you're dealing with. If it's your mortgage, if you've got diagnosed with cancer, if you're afraid of, you lost a baby in birth and you've got to bury that child, Theosophy has answers for all of those things. All of those things. It's in the now. That's what it's here for.
So do you think that there might be any truth in the claim that Theosophy has become a bit cult-like? Do you think that's true? And sectarian, maybe?
Yes. It has become cult-like. Look at the big fat real estate. Look at the big fat salary priests. Look at those who keep it closed and dole out the husks. Absolutely. This is a human thing. We tend to do this. And we also like to idolize humans, like the Krishnamurti thing. We want to say, oh, that's going to come and save me. No one's going to save you but yourself. And all of the instructions that you need are in these ancient teachings. So has it become like a cult? I get told it's a cult all the time. It's a cult. It's a cult. No, it's not a cult. It's not, but it can become cult-like. And if you go into any of the dusty old rooms, which it's time. We don't have to have lodges and libraries anymore. That's not who goes to the library anymore. Back in the day, that's how you gathered. That's what you needed to do. Please, please, please. If anybody is watching, the language of today is quick. It's a short attention span. You're on your phone, and that's where we need to be. That's where we need to be. And I've been trying to do that. It is very, very difficult. It is an uphill climb all the way to the very end, but I'm going to do my very best that I can. And to get these teachings out to the people that will relate to them, they are there. They're the ones who go, I've always felt this. Nature is the church. That's where I feel I'm at home. What is this that you're talking about? How do you say it? I go, Theos Sophia. If you can say theology, you can say theology. But when they Google that, they immediately get taken back to the end of the 19th century. And it's just a circle. I said, that's not Theosophy. That is a Theosophical Society formation. Theosophy is as old as time itself.
What do you say to those elements within the society, both in this country and indeed in other country sections, many of which are experiencing similar problems or problems certainly, as many country sections are, notably decline in membership? What do you say to those elements who say that everything after Blavatsky, when she died on May the 8th, 1891, everything that came after is somehow pseudo-theosophy and not really worth studying? What's your response to those people? Because they do exist, and we've met them.
They do. And I get them too. And they're like, oh, Blavatsky this, Blavatsky that. I say, well, again, this is ancient. This is perennial, is what Eddie refers to it, the perennial philosophy, the ever evolving, unending, always there. It's been there since the beginning. And in his books, what he's done is he's compiled all of this. Blavatsky is in there, but so is Paul Brunton, so is Isaac Newton. All of them are in there. Einstein is in there. This is, again, Theosophy is a science, religion, philosophy, contrasted. It is the truth that shines through. How can that be owned by Blavatsky? Her texts are immeasurably valuable, yes, but she is not theosophy. I get it all the time. I do get that question all the time. But we need to see beyond that. It's 2023. I don't understand. What are we doing? Why are we talking about William Q. Judge's death day? Why are we doing that? But it's not about resurrecting the Theosophical Society. And I do want to say there are some brilliant, beautiful people in the Theosophical Society. The work that Vic Hao Chen does, love that man, beautiful soul. This is not to slam those people, but I can't remember the text, but Blavatsky has said that there's more theosophists outside the society than there are inside. And those are the ones who really do walk around with that compassion, the one where you know that the suffering, the last teardrop has been dried. Do you stop working? You must work to ease the unnecessary suffering of all beings on this planet. It's a crushing call for compassion. They're out there. And it'd be fantastic if we did what these objectives say. The brotherhood is not just the elite salaried priests with the keys to the buildings. Forget that. Let the brotherhood is we must work together instead of working to go ahead and make somebody another salaried priest. Yes, you have to have money to do these to be able to live, but fat and happy? I mean, come on, look at we're not, that money should be spent on getting the teachings out into the world, not on big fat real estate. I'm sorry, but there are some really wonderful people in the society and I love them.
Yes, I think we can get rather hung up on real estate issues and also on money and organization. Indeed, in the Mahatma letters, I can't remember whether it was Moria or Kuthumi who warned in the early days that Theosophy would founder on its own organization. I'll leave people to judge whether that's the case or not, but certainly we are part of a cyclic decline, and therefore what we're almost doing here now is doing what the early Protestants did. They created Kirche ohne Mauer, churches without walls, and this is really what we need to think about now. The organizations and the buildings and all this other stuff, it strikes me it often, gets in the way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff involved in this. Paul and I, spend quite a lot of time doing things at Leeds Lodge because there's a lot of administration and everything. But we still do, this is what we do. This is the most important stuff that we do. And therefore, I think we need to sort of refocus this outside the bounds of an organization, because organizations have rules, hierarchies, they have factions within them. Whereas if it's a collective movement, which is much more level, without leaders, without, obviously you're going to have some initiators and people who do more than others. It's not going to be a hierarchy. And I think the hierarchy has kind of, in some ways, I mean, people may disagree with this, and if they do, I'd be very interested to hear it. But I think the hierarchy, as you clearly believe, has got in the way of these things. And, this has completely been going on for decades and decades and decades. There's been this slow process where things have become much more formalized and bureaucratic. And so organizations run the risk always of becoming completely self-serving. And I think we see that in many of our institutions in, Britain today, which is clearly facing problems on all fronts. So how do we get it out of the box? How do we start to do these bite-sized pieces that people can understand? And I'm sure a question that people will ask inevitably, so I'll perhaps try and, deal with that now. What do you say to those who might accuse us, you, me, of dumbing down this and somehow diluting it in some ways and casting pearls before swine, if you like, to use the biblical expression?
That's a very good point. And I have experienced that. Many times I thought, what am I doing? What am I even doing? Does anybody even care? This is kicking my butt. And I don't even know if this works. Do they even care? However, getting it out there, being able to get it out there so people can understand. There's fantastic work being done by the Young Adult Theosophists of America. I've seen them go on to TikTok and they share little clips, and people are interested in what they have to talk about. People are interested in the paranormal. They're interested in reincarnation. They love near-death experiences. That is screaming for Theosophy to come in and go, would you like to know more about that? let me tell you, there's a whole bunch more where that came from. You don't just have to stop at the scare. Why don't you find out what it is you're looking at? That was one of my favorite things in doing this series with Eddie's work, is the death is transition, time at the door of eternity, all of the explanation of paranormal photography. People love that. Go to Google and type in paranormal photography. You'll get millions of videos. And here he is explaining what it is you see. And he's talking about the ancient teachings. He did not come up with this. He's compiled it and put it together and written it very well. So it's presented with an answer. What is it that we're looking at? You and I are going to do a series on that, about death and reincarnation. Look at the near-death experiences that they're looking at. Everybody's hungry to know that, but they never know what it is that they're looking at. They have this experience, the past life review, bam, they're back into life. And then they think there's some kind of a God, and they walk around talking about their experience. To me, that is like a report card. But people are interested in near-death experiences and reincarnation. These little kids coming back saying, remember when I was your dad? And all this stuff, people love that. But Theosophy could come in with all of these answers for that. You asked me, what can we do? I have to say, what is your skill? What do you do? My thing is talking. Some people write. You write. Some people, organize. And some people cook. Some people, whatever your skill is, take Theosophy, apply it to that, and bring it out into your environment, your immediate family, your spouses, your friends. Become it. Don't preach it. Become it. In every way. So you've got a horrible situation come in. Your reaction speaks volumes on how you can overcome your lower self, this beast within. That alone, by becoming it, you live it. And if you want to, use your skill to bring it out into the world and answer those questions that people are hungry for. It's wide open. It's literally like a sales thing where you go, that's a lost lead. All these people have questions. No one's coming in with the answers. Theosophy has the answers, but it's not just the Theosophical Society that can dole them out. We all can. And we're all students. None of us are gurus. None of us are sages. We're simply hungry, enthusiastic students that want to serve humanity. Become it. In whatever you have in front of you, with whatever your skills are, that's your classroom. And let's just do it together.
One final question before we open it up, because I'm sure we're going to have some comments today. One of the things which is often said, it's become a bit of a theosophical cliche, is people say, oh, people are not interested in these ideas until they reach middle age. They're too busy with their jobs and with their families, etc., etc. And I've always said, well, I've been interested in these things since I was a child, since I used to wander around country graveyards with my parents on a Sunday afternoon and asked, why did this person die at 6 years old and why did this man live to 99? So I've been asking those big questions, and I suspect today, in this chaotic, crumbling, materialistic world of ours, I guess a lot of younger people are asking these questions as well. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Is there any purpose to this? What happens when I die? These are fundamental questions, and you don't need to reach the age of 40, or 50 in order to answer these things. People are asking these questions, or am I wrong about that? Is it not something that the young do today?
Well, that is a fantastic subject. And I have to tell you that if I look back at this all the time, I go, how come I didn't know about this earlier? If I was younger and had these tools, this information, this understanding, no more fear of death. And also there was a series that I did in 2021 with a woman named Catherine Gann out of the TSA on Theosophy for Kids. So what it is there's a book written by the it's the ULT, I think, wrote it. And it's called, I don't know, it's written for kids. I can't remember the name of the book. I don't have it in front of me. But each week we would do a series on things, why bad things happen to good people, what happens after death, the cycles, even looking at the trees, you see the leaves go down, the leaves then nurture the soil for the tree to be born again. We need this from the get-go. I think we should start. I've taught my son, without him even knowing it's Theosophy, theosophical principles about understanding death and understanding when things are difficult, you're learning, when things are good, you get to rest, the eternal cycles. I've drilled that into him so he can have tools as he goes through life. He doesn't need me. He just needs to understand how the world works. Absolutely. I would love to see this implemented from the birth canal from the womb to the tomb. That's what I'd like to see it. It's meant for that. But for some reason we think, oh, only when you're 50 years old and you've got a gray hair thing and you sit in the lodge, are you worthy? No, you're worthy the moment you get here. Earth is a very difficult place place to be, Mialba. We need these instructions, and we need them disseminated for our language. And I know you want to say pearls before swine. There's not one human on this planet that wouldn't benefit from understanding these teachings, these ancient sacred teachings. Earlier, the better. That's my answer.
Yeah, and it strikes me that the topic of death is a very pertinent one, because it's something that we all have to experience sooner or later, whether we prefer to not think about it or not. But it also is a vehicle for teaching reincarnation, the law of karma, which is the law of laws. So it's a good way of us getting into these things. And that's why I wrote a particular book on death, because I want people to stop fearing it. And I think, Anne is right about all this. And that's why I wrote on the invitation to this. Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message.
It is, yeah.
And I think a lot of us within various spiritual circles and theosophical circles have, to some extent, lost sight of that. It's almost like we're using the tools of the 17th century to fight a modern war. It's like we're using cutlasses and people in suits of armor and that sort of thing, rather than the modern techniques of the world. Have you got any thoughts on that, Anne, before we bring Dawn?
Oh, I'm just cheering you on, because absolutely we are using outdated means, and we're just stuck in that. We really do need to, as you say, the way forward. And the way forward is, anyway, if theosophy means anything to you, become it, be it, use the skills that you've been given. The universe has given you these skills, bring it out into the world. It's not about preaching or real estate and salary priests. It's about becoming it and taking it out whatever way you think you can. And us working together. No one's better than anybody else. We're all just doing this together. We're all dedicated students working, hopefully, to make the world a little bit better than it was when we got here. That's it. Yes.